Hi, I'm Gary Stearman with another update from Prophecy Watchers, and in studio with me is Dr. Mark Hitchcock. He's a pastor, he's a writer, he's a Bible teacher, and it's good to have you here at Prophecy Watchers.
Well, great. It's good to be with you. It's my first time to be here with you, and hopefully it won't be the last time.
I hope that you can join us many times because when we talk, it seems like we run out of time.
Right.
Mark always has a lot to say, and he's here specifically to talk about his new book, which is called Russia Rising. And let's just, for a few minutes, talk about Russia, because to me, it's very strange that this nation has taken such a prominent place in the last year, where it had more or less dropped out of sight. Suddenly, Russia is in the news. Every time you pick up a paper, turn on the television, it's Russia, Russia, Russia. And you have written a book about Russia rising. And I think it's properly timed.
Well, it is. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, Russia's been everywhere in the news. And of course, the Soviet Union fell apart back in 1991. Everybody thought, well, that's kind of all over with now. And, the bear's kind of gone into permanent hibernation. And really with the rise of Vladimir Putin, Russia's been rising, but it's just mushroomed in the last year or so. With what's been happening in Syria and Russia's involvement there, alleged tampering in the elections here, actually in Germany, France, other places, trying to destabilize Europe and destroy Europe, really, get rid of NATO. I mean, it's just their fingers are everywhere. They're in Iran involved there.
Now, you weigh in, I think in a big way in your book, on the current discussion about who is Gog and what in the world is the land of Magog, Ezekiel 38. It's a topic that has been really at the top of the list in Bible prophecy for decades, maybe centuries, because it's a big, big prophecy.
Yes.
And I think you've done a really good job of clarifying what it says.
Well, we've tried to go in and look at Ezekiel 38 and 39. That's the biblical entry point to any discussion in the Bible about Russia. And in the book, what I try to do is just, go talk about, look, what's happening today, kind of current events and all, and then who are these nations that are involved in this invasion of Israel in the end?
Yeah.
And to really identify them, again, not using just the newspaper or current events, but the Bible and history. When's this invasion going to happen? What's going to happen when it takes place? Why should we care about it? How does it affect our lives today? So just trying to go through and really look in a concise, clear way to kind of cut through all of the things that have developed over this through the years and really see, what does the Bible really say about this? And, I think when we do that, I think the picture becomes pretty clear.
It's fascinating that today Russia more or less dominates the Mediterranean Sea. They have the big boomer submarines there. They have heavy cargo ships that dock in northern Syria, and with railheads at those docks that can carry weaponry into the heart of Syria and off toward the east and toward Persia. So the Russians are busy, busy people these days.
Well, they are, and the chaos in Syria has really given them an opportunity that they have really seized. With Assad, they're bolstering the Assad regime. They're the brutal Assad regime. And they're doing that along with their ally, Iran, which Iran is also mentioned in Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38, verse 5, Persia, which is the modern nation of Iran. So here we have kind of these nations lining up, this alignment of nations that was predicted over 2,500 years ago by Ezekiel, and it reads like today's headlines.
It does, and it's also going to happen in the latter days, according to, if you read Ezekiel 38:8, which I'm looking at here, after many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years, thou shalt come back from the land that is brought back from the sword. What is the land that is brought back from the sword?
It's the land of Israel.
Land of Israel. Well, and it's always been curious to me because Islam is represented by the figure of the sword.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so Israel is the land that's brought back from the sword. Israel, in fact, is battling the sword daily.
Sure.
And so this prophecy almost has a timestamp on it in the latter years. I think that, as has been said by so many people, Israel's God's timepiece. We wouldn't be talking like we are right now if Israel were not back in the land, right?
Well, that's right. And I always like to tell everyone, that this is a great observation in the Bible. Ezekiel 37 comes before Ezekiel 38 and 39. No, that's an earth-shattering observation. But chapter 37 is the regathering of Israel back to their land, because you can't have Israel being invaded in Ezekiel 38 and 39 if they're not there. And so we do have some really interesting chronological indicators in Ezekiel 38 and 39. It says it's going to be in the latter years. It says it's when Israel's been regathered. And it also says that Israel will be living in a time of prosperity. And it also says they're going to be at rest and living securely. So we have to put all those different pieces together to discover, okay, what's the time period that fits best for this? And I think this is an invasion that could be happening very soon.
Let's talk about Turkey for a moment, because there is a really vicious strongman in charge, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, which it took me about a year to learn to pronounce that name.
Yes.
But this man took over Turkey, and he is converting it into a dictatorship.
Yes.
And he has plans. And a lot of people have said, well, maybe Erdogan could be this Gog of Scripture. So there's a discussion going on. And let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, it's certainly true. If you look at Putin in Russia, I mean, he's a Gog-like figure. So is Erdogan.
Yeah.
Erdogan, a little over a year ago, they had this big alleged coup attempt in Turkey. And Erdogan used that to basically press everything down, to take more power. That's what strongmen always do. They use crises. And some even wonder if he didn't create the crisis. That he created the coup to then put down the coup to then extend his power. But whatever happened in all of that, he has come out of all of that with incredible power. They've changed their constitution in the country. He now has incredible power in the land of Turkey. And 4 of the geographical places mentioned, I believe, in Ezekiel 38, 1-6, are in modern-day Turkey. So they'll be a part of this invasion as well. And they have been strengthening their alliances with Russia and with Iran. You kind of have the triple threat, or this triumvirate today, of Turkey, Iran, and the nation of Russia. And they're all involved as well in what's going on in Syria, which is just north of Israel.
Now, there is some discussion, and has been now for the last 2-3 years, about Russia's role in Ezekiel 38. And some people take the extreme position of saying, no, it's not Russia at all. We're really talking about maybe Turkey and Iran here. But I like the way you analyze this, because you put Gog and Russia at the head of this thing, but you don't exclude Turkey. You say that Turkey's going to be a big part of the invasion.
That's right. I think that you have Russia involved here, according to the text. I think you have Turkey involved. I think Iran's involved. I think a lot of the Central Asian nations are involved under Magog. The ancient Scythians, kind of the underbelly of the old Soviet Union. You have Sudan involved, which it's interesting. A few years ago, northern and southern Sudan split and became 2 countries. Yeah. So the northern part is all Islamic. So to be part of this. And then you have Libya mentioned as well. And Russia is very involved in the chaos in Libya. ISIS has been there, but Russia's involved there. And there's another strong man there, since Muammar Gaddafi's been taken off the scene, that they're kind of backing now to try to gain a foothold there. So we really see a lot of alliances and convergence of all of these nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38 really happening right before our eyes. And I don't think it's an accident. I think it's divine providence that all this is taking place.
You know, you are a classic Bible teacher. You teach the pre-tribulation rapture of the church. You are a premillennial, and you are dispensational in your outlook. We're looking for the rapture of the church. Amen. I'm just going to ask you straight out, what about the rapture of the church? Is it going to happen before Ezekiel 38, do you think? Or will we see a little bit of Ezekiel 38?
My view is that Ezekiel 38 and 39 happens during that first half of the tribulation period, that first half of Daniel's 70th week. Now, others think it could happen before the rapture, like Joel Rosenberg in the Left Behind series. That was the first event. And then you had the rapture later. So, I could be wrong about this, but it says that they're living at rest and they're living securely in the land. And that seems to fit best for me when they're under this false covenant, this temporary covenant with the Antichrist. So that's the way I see it. But, how much of the stage setting could we see? before the rapture takes place? We don't know. We don't know, will we be right on the cusp of these events before we're taken out? We don't know for sure.
And we don't know. And this is, I think, the wonderful part of being a part of the body of Christ is you can't know for sure, but there's no law that says you can't try to understand.
No, that's right.
It's a very exciting thing to do.
Yeah.
That is just to try to put together the pieces and come up with a good estimate of what's going to happen, because there's real excitement in that. I'm really looking forward to the rapture of the church. I think it could happen this afternoon.
Sure.
Well, let's just put it another way. It could happen before we finish here.
Right.
And that keeps us going.
Yes.
And
we're to live looking. We're to live looking.
That's the whole idea. And the idea of watchful waiting is an art, I think, that's perfected over a number of years in the walk of faith. And but a book like Russia Rising, it kind of makes your heart beat a little faster. I think Mark Hitchcock has given us a lot to think about. Of course, we're going to be offering his book, Russia Rising. We'll be doing some programming with him that you'll see shortly, where we have time, a lot more time to talk about what's actually in the book. But let's go back now and kind of sum up. What do you believe about Vladimir Putin and Russia and the upcoming events in the Middle East? And what does the Bible say about this?
Well, I think what we can expect in the future is Russia is going to continue to rise. Putin, as long as he's on the scene, again, if these events begin to transpire quickly, the rapture takes place, he could be Gog. We don't know.
We don't know.
But they're going to continue to rise there. They're going to continue to spread their tentacles there in the Middle East. They're going to continue to strengthen relations with Iran, with Turkey. They're going to stay in Syria as long as they can. There they are. Think about this. Russia and Iran poised a few miles north of Israel's border there in Syria. They've come in there because of what's happened in the land of Syria. So these are things really that are staggering that are happening, that people who wrote about this decades ago would be looking at this saying, these events are right on our doorstep. And again, seeing these things to me indicates how much more quickly could the rapture take place.
Well, let me just present this book to you. Of course, it's in our Prophecy Watchers online bookstore. Go to prophecywatchers.com. Just click the online bookstore and scroll down, and you'll find Mark Hitchcock's name and his books. And this package of 3 books, Russia Rising, ISIS, Iran, and Israel, and this one about Revelation, 101 questions. 101 answers to questions about the book of Revelation. We're putting this together, calling it the Russia and Revelation package. And for your gift of $50 to Prophecy Watchers, we'll send this to you. Again, you'll find this, by the way, in the online bookstore. Scroll down and you'll find this package called the Russia and Revelation package. And I would urge you, if you want to know about Russia and what's behind the news today, I think Mark has nailed it, quite frankly. In the midst of a lot of controversy and maybe argumentation about what's going on, he just kind of shoots right through to the main subject, and I appreciate the book.
Well, thanks a lot. It's great to be here with you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come here and talk about it, and we'll have to do this again before long.
We will. Russia Rising. It's a good book. It's worth reading. And keep watching Prophecy Watchers, and before very long, we're going to have a long conversation with Mark about his new book and about some other books that he has written. He's a good writer. Take it from me. I love a book that you can read and it makes a lot of sense and it doesn't take you off into places that you didn't want to go. So you've done it.
Amen. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's kind.
Mark Hitchcock, thanks for coming by Prophecy Watchers. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll be seeing Mark more in the future. I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, you keep watching. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.